It's 6:47 a.m. Frost is still clinging to the fence line, and your breath hangs in the air for a second before disappearing. You shuffle outside in socks and slippers, coffee in one hand, seed in the other. You fill the feeder just like you've done every single morning for the past 3 years. You don't even think about it anymore. Total muscle memory. The metal lid creaks, the seed rattles into the tray, and somewhere up there in the bare branches, something is already watching. And man, it doesn't take long. Within 90 seconds, they show up. A chickadee lands on the rail just 2 feet from your hand, close enough that you can actually hear the tiny click of its claws finding grip. A cardinal drops from the maple like it's been waiting the whole time, wings folding shut midair with a precision that looks almost rehearsed. A pair of finches swoop in low and fast, landing without a second thought right where they always do. You smile. Maybe you even mumble something to them under your breath. You call the cardinal he, like he's got a name, like he recognizes your voice. Like this whole thing is a genuine friendship that's grown over 3 winters of freezing mornings. And for one quiet second, standing there in the cold with your hands wrapped around a warm mug, it feels mutual. It feels earned, except it isn't. Not even close. Not in the way you think anyway. Because what's actually happening in that half second before the chickadee lands, the sheer calculation running behind those little black bead eyes, has almost nothing to do with you as a person. It's way colder, way older, and a lot more mathematical than affection. And honestly, by the end of this, you're never going to fill that feeder the exact same way again. Here's the thing most people never stop to question. Birds show up in your yard every single day, sometimes for years. They arrive at the exact same time. They seem to know the squeak of your back door. So doesn't that prove they actually like you? Doesn't consistency like that have to mean something? That's the story we tell ourselves, right? It's comforting. It fits neatly into the same emotional bucket as a loyal dog or a neighbor who waves every morning. We're just wired to look for patterns. When we see the same face show up day after day, our brains automatically invent a relationship even when nobody asked us to. Behavioral ecologists who spent decades watching backyard birds up close, tracking them across seasons, cataloging thousands of hours of feeder footage, have found something quietly unsettling underneath that comfortable story. The loyalty isn't to you. It was never to you. It's to a location, a routine, a predictable output. Honestly, it's kind of like the strange fondness you might feel for a vending machine that has never once jammed or shorted you a bag of chips. You don't love the machine. You've just learned to trust its output. Strip away the sentiment, and what's left is a system, not a friendship, not even a relationship in any sense we'd recognize. A system. Quiet, constant, calculating, running behind every single feeder visit you've ever witnessed from your kitchen window. And most people go their entire lives without ever seeing it clearly, because the illusion is so well built, so evolutionarily convenient, that it barely feels like an illusion at all. This matters. This is the part people miss, and it's not just a fun fact to file away and forget by lunchtime. Because the moment you truly understand what's actually happening at that feeder, you start to see your entire backyard differently. Permanently, in a way that's pretty hard to undo. The bird song at dawn stops sounding like a greeting and starts sounding like a greeting and starts sounding like something else entirely. The sudden silence before a hawk passes overhead takes on real weight. The way a cardinal seems to check in every evening at the exact same minute stops feeling like affection and starts feeling like something closer to a clock ticking inside a wild, indifferent mind. None of it is what you assumed. Once you see the real mechanism underneath the total absence of the warmth we've spent years projecting onto it, something strange happens. It doesn't make the birds less beautiful. If anything, it makes them more astonishing. Because the truth is stranger, sharper, and far more impressive than the fairy tale we've been telling ourselves. A machine that runs on pure survival logic, wrapped in feathers, landing on your railing every morning, that's a far wilder thing to witness than a friendly bird who simply likes you. You're not watching friendship. You never were. You're watching one of the most efficient survival systems ever evolved, playing out 6 feet from your kitchen window every single day in complete and total indifference to your existence as a person. And by the time this is over, you'll understand exactly how deep that indifference actually runs. If you've ever caught yourself talking to your cardinal like it's an old friend honestly, you're about to see why that instinct is quietly deceiving you. Stick around, because by the third section you'll actually understand what's going on behind those eyes. And if this kind of hidden nature stuff fascinates you, well, there's a lot more waiting if you subscribe. Let's start with the obvious question. Why do we fall for it so easily? Because birds are built, almost by accident, to trigger every soft spot in the human brain. Round heads, big eyes for their body size, quick, snappy movements. To a mammal brain wired over millions of years to protect helpless infants, that combination is basically irresistible. It's the exact same reflex that makes a puppy's face melt an entire room. Evolution didn't design birds to exploit this. It's just an accident of proportion. But it works, constantly, without them even trying. Watch a chickadee tilt its head at you. That tilt isn't curiosity about you. It's just a visual scanning technique. Birds have limited binocular overlap, so they angle their heads to bring an object into sharper focus using one eye at a time. It's optics, not affection. But to a human standing 3 feet away, it reads as attentiveness. It reads as intentiveness. It reads as interest. Your brain just fills in a story the bird never wrote. Now add sound. A cardinal's morning call bright rhythmic lands right in the part of your brain tied to music and reward. Studies on birdsong and human stress show measurable drops in cortisol after just minutes of listening. So the bird isn't just visually charming. It's neurologically comforting in a very literal, chemical sense. You're not imagining that good feeling. It's real. The part you're imagining is why it's happening. Here's the part that stings a little. None of this costs the bird a thing. It's not performing warmth for your benefit. The head tilt, the song, the proximity, every single behavior serves the bird's own survival math. Your emotional response is just a byproduct, a happy accident of two totally different nervous systems briefly overlapping in the same backyard. You built the relationship. The bird just showed up for the food. And once you see that gap between what you're feeling and what's actually driving the bird, the next question becomes unavoidable. If it's not affection, what is actually going on inside that small skull when it looks right at you? This is where it gets kind of uncomfortable. Songbirds like chickadees, titmice, nuthatches have actually been studied a ton for this. Their ability to recognize individual humans is real. They genuinely can. Research out of several university labs shows chickadees can tell the difference between a threatening person and a neutral one, and they remember that distinction for weeks. So yeah, the recognition is real. But recognition isn't the same thing as caring. A security camera recognizes your face too. What really matters is what that recognition is actually for. For a bird, your face just gets sorted into a tiny little box. Threat, non-threat, or a resource. Honestly, that's pretty much their whole emotional spectrum. There's no folder in their brain for friend I'm fond of, no nostalgia, no gratitude, not even a warm feeling when the exact same bird shows up 3 winters in a row. Their brain just doesn't run that software. Picture the moment you walk out and refill an empty bird feeder. From your side, it feels like a nice little act of care. You're providing. You feel trusted. But from the bird side, you just instantly reclassified yourself from no resource back to resource. The switch is immediate, mechanical, totally stripped of any sentiment. There's no relief when they notice you're gone. There's no joy in your return. It's just updated data. And this is where the science gets almost eerie. Studies on corvids and social songbirds suggest that if a total stranger walked out and filled that exact same feeder with the same regularity, a lot of those birds would shift their behavior to that new person almost seamlessly. You're not irreplaceable. You're just a reliable output source. And reliability, not who you actually are, is what gets you a spot in their mental map. And look, this matters. That's not some minor detail. That's the whole illusion just cracked wide open. So if the bird isn't actually bonding to you, what on earth is being reinforced every single day at that feeder? Well, the answer takes us somewhere even colder. Here's where the mask kind of slips, you know. Humans grieve. We remember people we've lost. We mourn. We carry that emotional weight around for years. So it's super tempting, almost automatic to assume birds do some version of the same thing. Nature shows sometimes lean into this, right? Showing a bird mourning a mate or a lost chick because it makes for good television. But the actual behavior tells a totally different story for most backyard species. When a mate dies, most songbirds don't really do prolonged grief. Within days, sometimes just hours, a widowed bird will start courting a replacement. Not because it's cold, but because grief is just expensive. Evolutionarily speaking, it burns energy and focus that you need for the next breeding cycle, and when you're looking at a wild lifespan that might only be 2 or 3 years, there's literally no room for lingering sorrow. And honestly, this applies to you too. If you stopped filling that feeder tomorrow if you moved away, or just got busy for a week, the birds wouldn't wait around. They aren't going to circle an empty perch out of longing. They'd just redirect their search almost immediately. Within days, your yard goes from being a hotspot to a dead zone on their mental map. No mourning period, no sentimental return visits just in case. The map gets redrawn, and you just vanish from it. It sounds harsh when you say it like that, but flip the lens for a second. It's kind of breathtaking. These animals are so efficiently wired for survival that they carry zero emotional dead weight. Every ounce of energy goes towards staying alive and making more birds. Nothing gets wasted on nostalgia for a hand that used to scatter seed. You feel the history and the continuity of it all. The bird feels none of it. And somehow both of those things are happening at the exact same feeder every single morning. It gets even more surprising when you watch how birds treat each other, not just us. Backyard feeders usually look like these peaceful little communities. Chickadees, nuthatches, and titmice, all hanging out together in mixed-species flocks through the cold months. It looks like friendship. It looks like they're cooperating just to be nice. It's not. It's a security alliance. Every single species brings something different to the table. Chickadees are usually the first to spot a hawk and sound the alarm call so specific that other species can actually decode how dangerous the threat is just by the notes. Nuthatches scan the bark and branches. Titmice add noise in numbers, making the whole group harder to ambush. Everyone benefits, sure, but nobody is doing it out of the goodness of their heart. It's a real-time insurance policy. It's renegotiated constantly, and it gets dropped the second it stops paying off. If food gets tight, that exact same friendly little flock turns on a dime into pure aggression. They will chase, displace, and even injure their former flockmates over a single sunflower seed. The compassion was never actually there. It was just a temporary alignment of interests, and this reframes something you've probably watched 100 times without really noticing. Two birds seeming to share a feeder so peacefully. But honestly, you're actually watching a live risk calculation. One bird is only tolerating a rival being close because chasing them off right now costs more energy than it's worth. Shift the food supply just a little bit, and that peaceful moment shatters. There's no backyard community bound by warmth. There's just a constantly shifting equation of who benefits from tolerating who, and for exactly how long. The true nature of backyard hospitality. So what is your yard really, to the birds that fill it every day? If you strip away every emotional layer we like to add, the answer is almost clinical. Your yard is a node. Just a predictable coordinate on a much larger mental map that every visiting bird carries around. A map built entirely from cost, risk, and calories, updated continuously, with zero space for sentiment. That map includes dozens of other coordinates you'll never see. The neighbor's crabapple tree. A gap in a hedge 3 yards over that blocks the wind. A gutter that holds rainwater on dry days. Your feeder isn't the center of that map, it's just one useful point among many, valuable only for as long as it keeps performing. This is genuinely humbling if you really sit with it. We fill feeders hoping to be noticed, hoping to be a little bit special to something wild and free. And in a narrow, functional sense, we are noticed. Our patterns are studied. Our schedules are learned with startling precision. Birds have actually been documented adjusting their arrival times to match a homeowner's habitual refill window almost to the minute. But here's what most people don't realize. That precision isn't devotion, it's optimization. The bird isn't trying to be close to you. It's just trying to waste less energy and grab as many calories as possible. And your predictability happens to serve that goal really well. which kind of raises a quietly devastating question underneath all of this. If none of it is actually about you, not the visits, not the recognition, not the routine, then what, if anything, does the bird feel when it looks through your window at you? And this is where the story stops being about backyard trivia and starts becoming something much bigger. Because this same pattern, this radical, almost alien indifference dressed up to look like warmth, doesn't stop at your feeder. It's the operating principle behind almost every wild interaction humans romanticize and turn into a story about connection. The friendly deer that walks up to a cabin porch at dusk. The loyal fox that comes back to the same farm winter after winter. The dolphin that seems to play right alongside swimmers in the surf. We build entire folk stories around these moments. We pass them down, we post them online, and we caption them with words like trust and bond. In every single case, we're just matching cold, wild survival rules onto emotional language built for our own species, a language that honestly never should have applied in the first place. And every time, the animal's actual inner life turns out to be stranger, more efficient, and way less sentimental than the story we tell about it. The deer isn't actually trusting you. The fox doesn't feel loyal to your land. The dolphin isn't playing just because it enjoys your company. Birds, though, they're the purest version of this whole illusion, because they're the ones we interact with every single day. At arm's length for years, close enough to see their dark little eyes and hear their wings. Which means the moment of realization, when you finally see the machinery instead of the myth, hits so differently with a cardinal at your window than it ever would with a fox you only glimpsed once in a field. And there's one final piece of evidence that makes this undeniable. A detail straight from long-term field data that, once you hear it, makes it pretty much impossible to ever look at your feeder the same way again. Here it is. Track a single banded cardinal or chickadee across its whole life. Something researchers actually do patiently in backyard studies stretching across entire decades, and you'll find something wild. The bird can return to the exact same feeder location for 3, 4, sometimes 5 consecutive years. Same rail, same tree, same exact routine, morning after morning, season after season. To any human observer, that looks like pure devotion. It looks like a bond quietly deepening with every year that passes, the way an old friendship deepens just by surviving time. Except, run the numbers, and the truth surfaces. Cold and clean. That bird isn't coming back because of an accumulated relationship. It's returning because that location has never once failed a simple, brutal test. Does this spot reliably produce calories at low risk? That's the entire question. That's all it's ever been. Every single visit is functionally a fresh transaction, evaluated in a fraction of a second, approved, repeated, with zero memory of affection carried forward from the last 10,000 visits. There is no emotional ledger building in the background, no growing fondness, no sense of we've been through a lot together. There is only an unbroken string of individually neutral, completely indifferent yes answers to the exact same cold question, asked fresh every single time, as if for the very first time, which means the bird you think you've known for 5 years has never once thought of you as familiar in the way you think of it. It has never felt the years accumulate. It simply never had a reason to say no. And the second that reason appears, it won't hesitate. It won't even look back. That's the reveal, not betrayal, not coldness for the sake of it, just an organism so ruthlessly, beautifully optimized for survival that warmth, as you understand it, was never part of the equation to begin with. And somehow, once you actually sit with that, it's way more astonishing than the fantasy ever was. Go back to that frosty morning. Socks on cold concrete, coffee steaming, seed rattling into the tray. The chickadee lands 2 feet away, head tilting, eyes catching the low sun, exactly the way it did at the very beginning of this story. Nothing about that scene has changed. Every single detail is identical. But you now know the head tilt is just optics, not affection. A small bird angling for a sharper view, not leaning in because it's interested in you. You know the recognition is real, but totally empty of fondness. A filing system with zero room for sentiment. You know that if you vanished tomorrow, moved away, stopped filling the tray, simply disappeared from that yard forever, there would be no mourning, no hesitation, no lingering visits out of habit or hope. Just a swift, silent recalculation and the map quietly redrawn without you, as if you'd never even been there. And yet, stand there again, coffee in hand, breath fogging in the cold. Somehow it doesn't feel smaller. It feels bigger. You're not watching a pet or a friend or a tiny feathered admirer waiting around for your company. You're watching one of the most refined survival systems evolution has ever produced, choosing, second by second, with total indifference to who you are, that your yard, at least for now, is worth the risk. That's not nothing. That was never nothing. It was just never what you assumed it was. And maybe that's the more honest, more remarkable way to greet it tomorrow morning. So tell me, when you fill your feeder tomorrow, are you going to see it the exact same way? Or is there one bird in your yard, one regular, you're already looking at a little differently right now, just from hearing this? Drop it in the comments. Tell me its species, how long it's been coming around, and what part of this changed the way you see it. I genuinely want to know which detail did it for you, because once you see it, there's just no unseeing it.